Oh my god. I feel it's so good. I love popcorn. So good. Sorry. I didn't realize the camera was rolling right now. How embarrassing. Oh my god. So are you having trouble with your child overstuffing their mouth? Well, in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about why that is and why is it that some kids overstuff their mouths, as well as some strategies that you can implement to help them out with that behavior. So one reason why your child may be overstuffing their mouth, especially if they are young and they are a baby and they're like starting to wean into those table foods, it's because they're learning. Some babies and young children, when they're first learning how to eat, they overstuff their mouths because it's a new experience for them. They're not used to feeding themselves. They're not used to knowing how much food to put in their mouths. All they know is, hey, this is a cool new experience for me. My mouth is much bigger than it used to be. I can now put my hands on my tray, get my food, and I can feed myself. And sometimes they just overstuff without realizing it. So one reason why your child may be doing it, especially if they're like a baby, young toddler, and this is their first time kind of starting to feed themselves, it's just because it's a learning experience. Reason number two, especially if they are a little bit older and they've been feeding themselves for some time now, but they're still overstuffing, it could be because they have poor oral awareness. Basically, all that means is they're not very aware of their mouth, their oral structures, their tongue, their cheeks, and how that all works together when they're eating. And so they may put a lot more food in their mouths because their food is going to tell them and give them more input, and it's going to tell them where their structures are. It's going to tell them, oh, my cheeks are here because there's food in my cheeks, or the roof of my mouth is here because there's food up there. So it helps them feel what's going on a lot more. Going along with that, another reason why your child may be overstuffing their mouth is because they may be sensory seeking. So a lot of times when you hear about sensory seeking, you think of a child who's like bouncing off the walls and jumping off high heights and being a risk taker and running around really fast and yelling at the top of their lungs. Like, you think of that as a sensory seeker, but sometimes people neglect to remember that our sensory systems are all over. And so a kid that is sensory seeking may also seek input to their mouths. And these kids are maybe the ones who are constantly chewing on things, biting on things, sucking on their shirt, or chewing on their pencil, or constantly just putting things in their mouth in general. And so this behavior may also carry over into when they're eating. And so they may also stuff their mouths because they're trying to get as much input as possible to help themselves feel regulated and attentive and ready to go. The third reason why your child may be overstuffing their mouth is because they may just have difficulty with learning the feeding process of chewing and swallowing and the coordination that comes with eating food. If you think about it, feeding is a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. We have to know the perfect timing. We have to know when to take a breath. We have to know how to chew. We have to know how to move our tongue from side to side. We have to know how to get food off the roof of our mouths with our tongue. We have to know when to swallow. So there is a lot that goes into it. And we don't really think about it because for a lot of us, it just comes naturally. But for some children out there, it takes a lot more work and thought and ability and strength to manipulate that food and chew it. And so sometimes you'll see kids overstuff in their mouths, and sometimes you'll see food being pocketed like in their cheeks because they just haven't developed those chewing skills and that coordination for them to properly chew and swallow their food. So I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can help your child if they are overstuffing their mouth. So if your child is overstuffing their mouth because they have poor oral awareness, then some things that you can try is to provide them with some more alerting feedback before they even start to eat. So you can do things like do a vibrating toothbrush before they eat, or even take a toothbrush that has the regular bristles and just kind of rub their gums with it, or massage their cheek, or even offer them some type of like chewy necklace or chewy tool. And this will kind of help alert them and give them more input so they are more aware of what's going on orally. Going along with that, if your child is overstuffing their mouth because they are a sensory seeker, then you may want to try providing them with some foods that is gonna give their mouths more alerting input. So for example, you can offer them like citrus foods, crunchy foods, sour foods, sparkling water, things that are cold, and even spicy, because all of these different qualities of food really wake the mouth up and alert the mouth. So if their mouth is getting the oral input that is needed, they may not overstuff their mouths as much because they already have what they need to feel regulated. The third strategy that you can try if your child is overstuffing their mouth, especially if they're the child that has some difficulty with like that chewing and swallowing piece, is that you can provide only 1 to 2 pieces of food at a time. Now I know this may sound like a lot more work than what you want to do. However, it's better to do a lot more work and have it be a choking hazard for them while they're eating. And I know a lot of us, we get excited when our kids are starting to eat on their own. So we're like, hey, here you go, here's the plate. And then they're overstuffing their mouths, and then we have to be like, wait a minute, hold on, let's take it back a few steps. So now you may have to stop, reevaluate, and reassess what you're giving them and how much you're giving them, and only offer them maybe 1 or 2 pieces of food at a time, and then slowly work your way up until you feel comfortable with giving them more food and they're not overstuffing their mouths anymore. And to go along with watching out for how much food that you're giving them, another strategy that you can be aware of is the size or the portion of food that you're giving them. So let's say you have a cracker. Instead of giving them a whole cracker, you may have to break it in half or even break it into 4 pieces and give them 1 at a time, or put the 4 pieces of the cracker on their tray so they have to pick up 1 at a time and eat it that way. So just be mindful of how much food you're giving them and the size or portion of food that you're giving them. The next strategy is mirror play. So putting a mirror in front of your child while they're eating will help give them visual feedback. So basically, when they're eating, you can have them eat a couple times, swallow, and then look in the mirror and say, ah. And that way, when they say, ah, they should be able to say or tell you if they have any food in their mouth. And if the answer is yes, there's still food there, go ahead, chew it, swallow it, take a sip of water. But if the food is clear, then hey, then I'll know it's time for me to eat more. So having them have a mirror in front of them will offer more visual cues for them, and hopefully in turn will also help them improve their oral awareness. And last but not least, another strategy that you can try is offering your child the use of utensils or even those child-friendly toothpicks. Because if you're offering a spoon, for example, you can only scoop so much on a spoon. Or if you're using a fork or a toothpick, you can only pierce like 1 thing at a time, take that off the fork or the toothpick, chew it, and then boom, and then you move on to the next one. So it's all about control, it's all about portion size, it's all about monitoring that, but it doesn't have to be like this forever. This is just starting out so that they learn how to pace themselves when they're eating, and so that overstuffing and even pocketing does not become a hazard for them. Well, I hope the information in this video was valuable to you. Share it with someone who you know may benefit from this information. And don't forget, if you are new to this channel, or even if you are an ongoing subscriber of this channel and you are kind of still new to the idea of sensory processing and want to learn more about it, don't forget that I now have a course. It's called the Sensory Crash Course, and basically it's a sensory course for beginners. So it's self-paced, so you can take it on your own time. It's only 8 lessons and they're not long at all, but you can get through them, and we'll go over the sensory systems. You'll learn about common behaviors that children have that may have some sensory challenges. Also, you'll be getting a wide variety of handouts from me, and they will help you with some strategies and activity ideas that you can start helping your child, whether they are sensory seeking or whether they are more sensitive to sensory input. I will leave that link in the description below, and if you are a subscriber, you can use the promo code YouTube Sensory, and I'll put that in the link below as well. And if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.